I'm drinking out of my Sidelines
I know
cup
mine's
here. Some
mine's
coffee.
dirty because Stella loves it. My daughter loves that Bim Bam coffee
I'll
mug,
send.
so Bim Bam nuts, and she Bim Bams it all Bim Bam time.
Well, I reckon I'll send you another one. Hey, Rob
Yeah.
Browne, executive producer, Brenden Martin in Ocala, Florida. I'm in Memphis.
New computer.
Hey,
New
new computer. We got to
Thanks
name
to
it.
you guys. Thanks to
Hey,
you guys.
thank y'all. That's right, because of this show. This is a supercomputer.
It
Look,
is.
a lot to cover today. We got the roundtable. Frank Duffy
Sugar
in
daddy.
Atlanta, North Georgia.
You're my sugar
Doug
daddy.
Dean in Birmingham. Coach Jackie Sherrill. Man, he was in Memphis Monday night for the Touchdown Club. It's as good as it gets, man. He's so real, and I'm telling you what, he's a man's man. He's just he's great. He knows what he's talking about, and it would have been fun to have been one of his players to play for him. Also, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, checks in from Jacksonville, home of
What?
Skinner and 38
What?
Special, and Georgia-Florida game, Brenden. Ken Capps will weigh in about 8:45 out in Dallas talking. Look, there's a lot to talk about, but one game he is going to talk about that's not in the SEC is SMU and Pitt. Remember that big game, I think, in 1982?
Mhm.
A lot of history out there. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, Rob Browne. Smash subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Message of the day. Junk in your head, junk out. No negative thoughts allowed. Here we come. Get pen and paper handy. Let's go.
That's right. We're here, and Coach,
Right,
we're
we're
gonna
here.
bring
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, see, you're good. It's like you're Pavlov's dog. I've got
That's
you
right.
trained way. It's my own fault. It's mine. I'm a bad handler. Let's bring in
No,
Coach
you're a great
Jackie.
handler.
Coach, are you there to save us this morning?
Well, I'm here. I don't know if I can save you or not.
Yeah, and we got Frank Duffy and Doug Dean coming on with us as well. And Coach, Monday night at the Touchdown Club, that was fantastic. Your talk about what's going on in college football. I like the Q&A session Harold Grader did. You're definitely one of the most popular, if not the most popular speakers ever at the Touchdown Club because you're a truth broker. You're also one of the smartest coaches in terms of being a visionary. We're ready to hear, and the rest of the free world is what you've got to say about college football and where we are today and where you think we're going.
Well, college football, as we know it, is completely changing. And is it changing for the better? Depends on people's views. But as we know, and in your business, there's one thing, your show that drives anything dealing with kids, radio or television, and that are in television, on the radio, it's the people that listen. So getting to this point for a long time, finally, which owns the big one time, the Pac-10, but that's dissolved, our Pac-12. The SEC is owned by ESPN. So you had the two giants that fight for the eyes. Time. Well, I'll go back and when for proprietary right up until that time, the NC they also made all the money and gave some to the end when the lawsuit was filed, and it was proprietary rights to all took our at Board of Regents to New York, went to ABC, NBC, and ESPN, and they all 1978, I believe, or yeah, excuse me, 1984, 85, right in
Yeah, it was
there.
84, yeah.
And
The CFA suit?
right, they all said the same, that they would per game. So you fast forward that, and right in reference, remember when I say, excuse me, each, I'm talking about the big. They're approximately right now 100 million. Although I can get the SEC ESPN because I think they have a right in there that it was strictly confidential, and so that has and will never change. So that's where we are right now, as far as controlled college football. But you know the NIL, as we know, is no guard, and the universities are.
Coach, can you try to come back in? You're breaking up about every other word, so we can get better audio. And I'll see if Brenden can work with you. But I see where you're going about the CFA lawsuit, and that lawsuit in 1984 made it to where every game in college football was on TV. And I think Frank and Doug, we all know that's led to more eyeballs than ever in the history of the game. See if this is better, Coach.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
It's breaking up, and we're getting about every other word. If we can get it, if not, we can reschedule and do it next week. Yeah.
Count.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah.
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 Well, Coach is right.
Yeah.
Coach is right. That really opened up everything. Back in the day, think back when we were kids, you had the ABC game where you would see, the marquee game, and you would have the Slippery Rock score, on the scroll down below. We've gone from that limited amount of exposure to almost every college football game being able to be viewed. Now, again, it has hurt some programs in stadium attendance, not in the SEC. I mean, you couldn't fit a shoehorn into College Station, on last Saturday night. But I think the ability for people around the country to be able to consume other conferences' games has made this a much more national sport than it was ever in the 60s and 70s when we were growing up. Back then, you were lucky if you got Bo Jackson or Herschel Walker on a Saturday afternoon in the South, but you didn't see Archie Griffin. I mean, that was a rarity to be able to see a player like that.
You're muted, Rob.
Sorry. When I remember as a kid growing up, and Doug and Ken does, Coach Sherrill's just in a bad cell area. I think what we'll do is just reschedule for next week in the interest of, because he's got such a great message. And if he can come back on, he can do it, but that's just the way it is.
He's forgotten more than we'll ever know.
Yeah. And that, when he talked Monday about it, he talked about the money, and Ken, we'll let you play the role of Jackie Sherrill. Ken, buenos dias. Achtung, good morning. Out in Texas.
It looks like he already has. That steer looks like it's been a little roughed up in the back there.
Yeah.
That's cold. That is cold. Look who's talking,
Coach had
Doug.
the audience eating out of his hands the other night. It just talking about college football. And Doug, when we talk about the money involved, it's hard to put your hands around it, because they're talking $100 million per school in the coming years. And go back 20 years ago, there were several SEC schools whose athletic budgets weren't even $50 million in total.
Yeah, you think you went through change, didn't we, back when the SEC expanded, bringing first two and then an additional two more teams in. That felt radical. And I remember what felt really radical was help me with that, which SEC, Kramer maybe, that created the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And
Harvey Schiller started it.
most of us said Yeah, you just can't, man, the SEC commissioners, I tend to be mad at them some years because they seem partisan, and they're really not. They just want the conference to win. Usually, I can think of one or two exceptions I won't bother you with, but that almost all of us said, have you lost your mind? It's already impossible to go undefeated. And back before the BCS, the 2-team playoff mythical championship, you almost had to be undefeated then to be one of those two, and not almost. And so he's going to create a championship game that almost guarantees that no one will ever go undefeated. And guess what happened? We reel off national championship one after the other.
18 out of 21.
But now you juxtapose that, guys, with, it's good to see you, Ken. You juxtapose that with what we've got now. This is warp speed, dramatic change, and no one really knows it, as we manage and try to navigate all this change, if we're going to end up having a long list of regrets at what have we done now versus it's even better, and it's probably somewhere in between the two.
Yeah, Ken, we're talking about how popular college football is. You had a front row seat in Texas in 1982 when things started going kind of crazy. That's a polite word for it. SMU and Pitt played a big game out there back then. I had a lot of friends of mine from Memphis, a lot of them that went to SMU. Few went to Texas, but a bunch went to SMU. Here we are 42 years later, man. The Ponies, as my friend Charlie Bradshaw, who lives out there half the year, says, they got them a big boy football program, don't they? You're muted.
Well, I know one thing out there that
Ken,
day.
you're muted. Unmute yourself.
That looked like a Trans Am parking lot at that game back in 1982.
Replaced later by the Dodge Charger.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Ken, are you in? You were muted a minute ago. Yeah, Ken, you're muted. We can't hear you. Wow, this is live TV. But guys, the Trans Am was the car du jour of that.
Yes,
time
sir.
Confirm it,
like
damn
Doug
it.
had one with a
Damn
big old
right.
silver eagle on the hood.
That Pony Express that horsepower had some power underneath that hood. That wasn't the old Pony Express. That was the new one.
Yeah. And
Hey,
Ken,
Rob,
jump in when we can hear you. Yeah.
While we're waiting on Ken's Radio Shack microphone to work, let me mention, I was going to mention to Coach Sherrill. Coach, where do you plan to be on my birthday this November 30th? I think Jackie Sherrill, and it's shocking, but I'll make a not so bold prediction. ESPN Game Day will not be in Tuscaloosa for the Auburn-Alabama game. That would normally be standard operating procedure. They're going to be in College Station.
Yeah.
You kidding me? That historic return of that game. And back in August when I said, boy, I think Texas is going to have their hands full with the Aggies. Well, now, goodness, by the time we get to that game, who's to say that A&M won't be a slight favorite? I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and Coach Sherrill just texted me, and he said, we're going to do this again next Friday at 8 a.m. He just got in a bad cell area. Yeah. He is all over the place, speaking, doing appearances. He speaks to the law school at A&M. He's one of the smart coaches, and talking to him the other night, I mean, it was rock star. I mean, we had to get extra tables in there. But he said, we're going to the NFL model. He says, this is directly from Coach Sherrill, with a cap like the NFL to make each university in all caps. Coach is very savvy on this social media. All universities the same. And
well, you're gonna have
his daughter is at Sewanee getting like a master's in creative writing. And Sewanee's got one of the best programs in the country. And speaking of Sewanee, I got to say this. Sewanee Unrivaled 1899. This is a cool book. SewaneeUnrivaled1899.org. You can order it. It's the coffee table book to go along with that great documentary by Norman Jepmenson and David Cruz from 6 years of hard work. It came out April of 2022. This is the history of college football, and Sewanee still has the same stadium, 130-something years old, the oldest in-use stadium in America, and they do fertilize it. So it's a big deal over there.
And the closest thing to their iconic run is what the poor Florida Gators have had to look at this year.
Yeah. Coach Sherrill says this: college football will be stronger than it is right now. There's a chance for 12 teams rather than 4 teams. I agree. More excitement, more money, more exposure, more eyeballs. And Coach loves that term. Doug, we talk about eyeballs. You live in Birmingham. 85% of the 85% of the people in Birmingham identify as a college football fan. The other 15% never got the survey in the mail. Okay,
Right.
There's no better city for college football in the world than Birmingham. I think we are going. Tony Barnhart's going to be on with us in a minute. We're going into uncharted territory. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know what our pronouns are when we identify with SEC football down here, but it's got to be something manly. That's all I can say. And dadgum, I've told Duff this many times, and I just absolutely loved it. The most rough treatment I've ever gotten at a visiting stadium, but it was so hilarious, was 1997 Auburn at LSU. And Frank, I love going to Baton Rouge. I've never been treated badly. This was just more funny than anything else. But I'm entering the stadium, and you know how the lines back up. And this very attractive brunette, clearly an LSU fan and proud of it as she should be, comes running up to me, and I'm like, I don't know what this is all about. Beautiful women don't just run up to me for no particular reason. And so she runs up to me, and it was a setup, and she said, Auburn, because I had an Auburn hat on going in, Auburn sucks. And this was from a female. That's the women are tough down here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they are in Happy Valley and other places, but and we absolutely love it. And I'll tell you, I don't know about you guys, but I think you're the same. As I have become more of an adult with responsibilities like grandkids and all that, I've chilled out, and I've found what there is to like in the rival fans, those who are willing to be mature about it. And because somebody's got to lose every time the game happens, and it doesn't mean you have to ruin the rest of your week, but there's a lot to love about the fan bases throughout the SEC, and so I'm thrilled with that. And by the way, put me a place card, Rob. I want to tell you guys and your listeners about a really, really eerie parallel I found, and I'll give you a hint. It involves Diego Pavia, who's maybe the story of the year, and for my money, Clark Lee should be in the lead as coach of the year if you really factor in degree of difficulty and all those things, historic changes, impactful wins. But I just think the parallel I found, I think you will find eerie to the point of raising the hairs on the back of your neck. We'll get to that later.
Another text from Coach Sherrill. I know he wants to be on. Like I said, we'll have him on next Friday, folks. Apologize, but he said some teams will be left out because they're not going to make the commitment financially. And
might shut their programs down.
Yeah, and Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, is going to check in with us right now. Tony, you are down in Jacksonville. I'm sure you've been to the historic the Hell House where Leonard Skinner learned how to do it so well. Home of you've paid homage. 38 special. We had Coach Jackie Sherrill on, and then he got in a bad cell area, so we're going to do it again next week. But Ken Capps is trying to get in with us. It's called Technical Issue Friday. I'm going to count to 3 and say, please, Tony, come in clearly. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, guys. I'm sitting here, lovely Ponte Vedra, Florida.
Can y'all hear me now?
In our condo just off the 7th hole of Sawgrass Country Club. And
you can't hide money.
Rob,
you can't hide
I'm gonna
money.
tell you this. Rob, this is my week off with the boys, okay?
Yep.
I'm doing 2 media obligations this week entirely, you and Buddy Martin, and that's it.
You are so kind. Hey.
That's tall cotton. Tony, you can't hide money there in your palatial beach estate.
And for that, I get a shameless plug for the book. I love it.
Hey, by the way, folks, this is a great book because Tony Barnhart is as authentic and genuine as it gets, and the Memphis Touchdown Club doesn't have a better advocate and friend. But this is a great book about life in the South. And Tony, talk a minute about it for people. I don't know if you've been on before with Frank and Doug to talk about your book, and then I want to get into the Georgia-Florida game. But this story ties in with why we love college football and the people that play it. And ain't nothing pulls us together better than this, cold beer and good food.
There you go. There you go. Well, the basis of the book, guys, is at the fall of 1970, roughly 700 years ago, I was a senior at Greene County High School in Greensboro, Georgia. It's exactly halfway between Atlanta and Augusta, and on I-20. And the courts ruled that the schools, there was a black high school, Floyd T. Corey High, and a white high school, Greene County High. Those two schools would finally merge once and for all. They were dragging their feet and integrate. Imagine that. They were dragging their feet, and the court said, first of all, one guy told me when he was I was doing the research, he said, you haven't integrated a school until you've integrated the football team. He said, and that's where you guys come in. We put the two student bodies together and two big schools. And we said, this is going to be great. We're going to have 60, 70 guys on this team. We're going to be awesome. When spring practice was over for that year, we had 19 players, 12 white, 7 black. And with that roster, we went to work and won 7 out of our last 8 games and lost to the mighty Gainesville Red Elephants and Tommy West, who was a player on that team, for the region championship. But it's not about football, guys. It's about the fact that 55 years after we played our last game together, we had homecoming at Greene County High School last Friday night. 6 of my teammates on that team showed up, including my quarterback, Charles Turner. But it's more about relationships. Sure. It's about the fact that, and I learned a lot about race and things doing the research for the book, and I learned that we've come a long, long way on the subject of race, but we still got a long way to go.
Yeah, and Tony, you have such great skills as a writer, and again, this book, just like I mentioned with Norman Jetmanson's book, Sewanee 1899, Unrivaled.org, he's got the coffee table book out, and I can't tell you, we don't have enough time for the praise they gave you. You spent a whole day at your house over in Atlanta, Dunwoody, with them, helping them make that documentary and all this possible. You and Lauren Smith. Lauren, what do you got? Well, Larry, I got Tony Barnhart on the show this week. A lot going on out there. Georgia and Florida playing. It's going to be a hell of a game. All right, 91 seconds left. Let's go, you silver britches. Tony, this is your stage, man. Let's talk about this rivalry down in Jacksonville, Georgia and Florida. It's a big one, as they say in the country. And again, thanks for taking time on your vacation to share with us because it means the world to us.
Well, I appreciate that. And just so you know, last night we're having dinner at our spot, the Palm Valley Fish Camp in Poneville. It's anything but a fish camp. It's a beautiful place to eat. And they come and sit us down. Who's sitting at the table next to me? Lauren Smith.
Wow, that's great.
I had a chance to see him.
He's everywhere.
Introduced him to my boys, and my boys were in awe. So we had a great time.
I bet.
But look, the Florida-Georgia game, the Georgia-Florida game, always whatever you want to call it, is that's when people started talking about, well, you know, they're going to build a stadium, and let's just move this game on the campus. Let me tell you what, I can give you the names of 100 people that I know personally who don't want no part of that. The tradition of coming down here, eating at your favorite restaurants, playing your favorite golf courses, sitting around and having beers and telling lies about each other. And the older you get, the bigger the lies become. That tradition is something that's ingrained into our culture. I understand it's a generational thing, but no, we're going to, as we said last night at dinner, we're going to keep doing this until we're not able to do it. So
understood.
Tony, man, I deeply admire your writing over the years, and I just want you to keep doing that until you can't do it. But I have a hunch that I'm sure that chalk and the narratives will be that Georgia's just too. After you saw how Georgia disassembled a great Texas Longhorn, I guess they're great. We need to watch a few more games, don't we? But Georgia looked like that Kirby Smart, ferocious, savage defense, harassing Quinn Ewers all game and causing problems. But on the other hand, it's been a weird year in which, for the most part, it's hard to call any particular team invincible. And so that, with that backdrop, Tony, I just have a hunch after watching how Florida looks so competent in playing not a great Kentucky team, but just the way Florida looked. I think Florida is going to make this game interesting. I don't think they're built to win it, but are you seeing a competitive game like I am, Tony?
Absolutely. First of all, they found their quarterback. Second of all, they're playing better. You can watch them and tell that they're playing better.
Last 5 weeks.
They're due to put together a complete game, and look, it's Georgia, Florida. All right, what we're going through now, the way that Georgia's dominating, that's an anomaly, and it is, the vibe here is completely different than it normally is, because there's a lot of Georgia people here. I ain't seen many Gators yet. I got a friend of mine from Orlando, Vinny DeSerio, was there last night, and he's as big a Gator as they come. But he was the only Gator I saw in that restaurant last night.
Yeah. Well, then, if the Gators, if the Dog fans do take over the stadium, that could be an important factor. Whereas it's mostly, I guess 60-40 worst case any given year.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the case, but it's going to be fun. But we have, by the way, we have the world's greatest tailgate party in spaces, in parking spaces 133 and 134. Come and see us. We have a lot of fraternity brothers that come from different parts of the country to be with us.
And if it might not be on the marquee, Tony, but there will be cocktails in that name somewhere.
I do believe. Oh, was I not supposed to say that? Well, I didn't really mean to call it the cocktail party, even though it is a cocktail party. But
yes,
we won't call it the cocktail party, and from now on, we won't call it the cocktail party. How about that?
Hey, leave it to an LSU guy to bring up alcohol.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Wait, Tony, I got to ask you a question. What was the great line of Mark Twain? The news of my demise was greatly exaggerated. The same with Georgia after that Alabama game, and we saw what Georgia did to Texas was very, very impressive. Can you speak to what Kirby addressed in that team from the Alabama game to that Texas game? He is one of the master motivators that's out there, and it's all about the team and it's all about the process, something he learned from Nick Saban. Can you speak to that maturation, if you will, or really the uncovering of what Georgia really was from those two games?
Well, Kirby loved it for the Texas game. Fellas, there's nobody in this stadium than the people in this locker room, the only people who think you can win. Nobody thinks you can win this game. ESPN, every one of those guys who picked the game, they picked Texas. So that
poor old Georgia.
Man, we're going to win the game. All right.
They ain't got no players. Poor old Georgia.
I was sitting there watching the game with my wife. She says, "What does this mean?" This means Texas has just been welcomed to the SEC.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
This is the way the game is really played. Okay,
Yeah. Well,
that was it. And the way that Georgia dominated that game was not reflective in the final score, because they beat them up. And here's the thing that Texas will learn. Oklahoma State, God bless them, has already learned. It's this week. It's this way this week. It's this way next week.
Yeah.
It's this way the week after that. And you're going to have to play one of these almost every single week.
But I compare the SEC 8-game schedule, Tony, to the grind of a track workout. You got to run 8 400s between 60 and 75 seconds with a 90-second break in between. So if you go out and run a 52 on the first one, okay, you're going to do that 7 more times. You got to pace yourself. And I think Texas has seen that. And Ken Capps is trying to get through. Coach Sherrill is texting me some really cool stuff. Again, we're going to have him on. Apologize. We had him scheduled for today. Came on, had some self issues. But, Tony, the big picture, and I always give credit where it's due. You have to do that. Not even the adults can screw it up. That was your breakdown of college football. It just keeps getting better, and it's almost like, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin. He still takes care of himself, and when he comes and plays live on a stage, you're in awe. That's college football. But what you are doing such a great job, and Doug alluded to it a minute ago, and so did Frank, and Ken does this. When you write, you hearken us back to these great eras, and in between you fill it in, and then you have a vision for the future, but you always have an optimistic outlook. And I totally I believe, as Coach Dye used to say, I don't allow my quarterbacks to have negative thoughts. God help the young man that hung his head after a bad play. That's what you do in writing. You're a truth broker, and you need to be commended for that. And I just want your thoughts on this SEC top to bottom and the Vanderbilt story. Is that one of the best stories you've seen in a while? And I'm seeing Diego Pavia. I'm having PTSD over that guy. He's coming back to Jordan-Hare. He's coming back for a snack.
Well, Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia is one of the best stories in college. The number one story in college football is the 12-team playoff, for the way that it's going to impact the way we all consume college football. But after that, I think it has to be Vanderbilt, what Clark Lee has done. He said, I give Clark Lee a lot of credit for being honest with himself, because he looked at his roster. He looked at his coaching staff. He said, you know what? We are not nearly well equipped to even compete right now. We've got to make drastic changes. So what does he do? He goes out and he hires Jerry Kill. He hires Jerry Kill's offensive coordinator, and he says, okay, well, it's great. I've got this great offense, but if I don't have a quarterback to run it, what's the point? You get Diego Pavia and 4 other guys, and all of a sudden they've got themselves a team that can actually compete. And they have done a tremendous.
Amazing.
And it's really, for as much fussing and cussing as people do about the transfer portal and NIL and all that, Vanderbilt is a classic example of what you can do, okay, with these new roles. If you are smart and you spend your money judiciously, you can improve and be competitive. They could easily be 7-0, 8-0 right now.
Tony, I'm so glad you gave me that seg, as they say in the business, about Diego Pavia. But I think this is original on my part. It shouldn't be. It's sort of, if you've been around football in the South for 20 or 30 years, you'll remember this. But man, oh man, the parallels with a guy you may have heard of, quarterback Brett Favre, who was at Southern. He was a senior quarterback at Southern Miss in Hattiesburg, 1990. And you'll recall Alabama fans were ecstatic in August, rightly so, that Bill Curry was no longer their head football coach after losing that first ever Iron Bowl in Auburn. And Gene Stallings comes in, and boy, they were excited, and rightly so. We would find out in 92. But Stallings got off to a bumpy start in his second game, September 8th. It was Brett Favre who came to Legion Field, and they walked out of there with a 27-24 win over Alabama. And Favre did so against a first-year coach at Alabama. Does that sound familiar with Kalen DeBoer? And then later in the season, November 10th, not satisfied with that, Southern Miss and Brett Favre goes into Jordan-Hare Stadium and beat Coach Dye in an offensive explosion, a 13-12 game. And so
Alabama state champs, I remember that.
Now Pavia he already beat Auburn a year ago. If you want to go ahead and give him legendary status, I'm fine with that. But if he beats Auburn tomorrow, which a lot of people expect, I'm going to probably be partisan with the orange and blue. But goodness gracious, he's in the same breath with Brett Favre, who needs our prayers. Brett's battling some health challenges, but it's just eerie to me what Diego Pavia has done. And pound for pound, the comparisons with Johnny Football are on point. He just is a gutty, courageous guy that inspires his teammates.
Well, one of the biggest changes I've seen in the last 10 to 20 years is that there was a time, and Rob and I have talked about this, there was a time when if you had a good defense and a good running game, you could get by with an average quarterback. you could win on defense and special teams and running the football. That's no longer true. I believe now that you must have an elite quarterback, and that to me, Diego Pavia is an elite quarterback. Okay, I don't care where he came from. That doesn't matter. Watch the guy play.
No doubt.
He is phenomenal to watch, and very impressed with his leadership skills. And so, I think the key is you've got to have an elite quarterback, and if you don't, well, look at the SEC roster, and you'll look at the quarterbacks on that roster. You will come to a point where everything below that line is not elite, and the ones above that line are elite. And it's about halfway down. Okay.
And Frank Duffy will remember the head coach that parlayed that Brett Favre senior season into 8-4, Curly Hallman, parlayed it into the LSU job 91 through 94.
Yeah.
Which,
remember it well. We call that the dark days. That's when you lose back-to-back to Vanderbilt on the road and home.
Yeah.
That was some rough days.
And there was the 6 interception game in Auburn in 94.
Yes.
Yeah, that was crazy. Ken, if you can hear us, jump in here with Tony Barnhart is down here on his annual trek to Jacksonville for the Florida-Georgia game. And, boy, a lot of history, tradition, and heroes. Let her rip, Ken. Oh, he's still
out again.
You're muted. Yeah. Okay.
Well, let me speak to the history of it because, Tony, being fans from other SEC teams, there was an absolute must-watch every fall, and that was the cocktail party. Everybody from other schools would make sure that we were at a TV. And look, I've gotten to become good friends with Buck Ballou from 680 The Fan, all my advertising and stuff on there with Duffy Realty. And I will tell you, that Ballou to Scott pass and Larry Munson's call is ingrained in my former 21-year-old brain. I can still remember being at the fraternity house watching that play as it happened. Can you speak in all your years of going to the cocktail party? Can you speak to what y'all's personal highs were? And I'm guessing maybe that play might have been one of them. And then the personal lows. And the one that I remember so well was the Spurrier flea flicker with like about a minute to go, which I think is still a motivating factor for every Georgia fan going down there on that drive going down 95. You think of that, and that's what's going to keep this rivalry not only as passionate as it is, but I think it's going to keep it in Jacksonville. Sorry, young fans. The older fans, I think the adults in the room have to take sway on this and keep it in Jacksonville.
Amen to that. Well, so many moments up and down. Buddy Martin asked me to give 2 or 3 of my most memorable games. One of the memorable games is 1975. I was a student at Georgia. I couldn't make the trip to Jacksonville. Georgia had been working on a play all week, all year long. They had a great tight end by the name of Richard Appleby, a great high school quarterback that they moved to tight end, and they ran a tight end around where the quarterback would hand the ball to the tight end. He'd run around, pick up 8 or 9 yards, worked every single time they played. Well, for the Georgia-Florida game that year, they put in a wrinkle to that play where the tight end would run the ball around the end, stop, and throw it deep. And that people have forgotten that Richard Appleby was a high school quarterback and a very good one. And so at the Georgia trailed 7-3 the entire game. Florida's trying to win its first ever. Think about this. Florida's still trying to win its first ever SEC championship. And if they beat Georgia, they do that. They got with about 3 minutes to go. The game's 7-3. The offensive coordinator said, okay, he turned to Matt Robinson. The quarterback says, run it now. Okay. Appleby went around the corner. He stopped, threw the ball deep, 80 yards to Gene Washington, who is, you'll see Munson's call talking about, he was trying out for the Olympic team. He was that fast. He said, Gene Washington running out of his shoes, thinking of Montreal in the Olympics. So that was one. The 95 game, when you talk about tacking on the score at the end, because somebody told Coach Spurrier, hey, Coach, Nobody's ever scored 50 on Georgia in this building. And as soon as you can say fade pattern from Eric Kresser, 52 to 47, 52
Oh,
to
my gosh.
45. So you never forget that one. So.
And by the way, that 75 game was really kind of the start of the Junkyard Dogs, wasn't it? I mean, they held Florida down.
Well, I got a story for you there.
All right.
Summer of 75, I'm working for the Red and Black. I decided to stay in school rather than go home for the summer, and I'm looking for a summer column. I got to know Coach Eric Russell very well. He and I were friends. He said, "You call me anytime. That'll be fine." So I called Coach Russell. He said, "You know what, Tony? We've got a bunch of little scrawny guys, and I tell you what, they're going to have to play like junkyard dogs."
Wow.
For us, and I wrote that in the summer of 75 before the season started.
By the way, it's a travesty Eric Russell is not in the College Football Hall of Fame.
We're working on it.
That has to happen. That has to happen.
Yep.
My dad was at Auburn when Erskine Russell, that's his real name, guys, Erskine. I love that name. Erskine Russell, Vince Dooley, because Dad graduated March 18th of 54. And Ralph Jordan Jr. told me, he said, "Rob, one day I was at practice, and Dad, after practice, said, 'Everybody gather around. We got some news.' And I hate to say it, but we're going to lose two of our best. Coach Dooley has accepted the job to be the football coach at Georgia, and Coach Russell is going with him to coach the defense, but we wish them nothing but the best. They're fine Auburn men, and we'll always consider them family." I mean, and that's what I love about that rivalry. There's so many of them, but at the end of the day, Doug knows this. I know it. Mixed marriages. I'm married to a Vol for life. Oldest daughter now is an Alabama grad. The rest of us are Auburn people. But that's what makes this show so much fun, is no matter, your school may not be doing well, but somebody's school is, and Doug tapped into it a minute ago. There's something to get excited about with every single fan base out there, Tony.
No, there is. That's what makes this game absolutely special. Another game that I will always remember was in 1993 in a driving rainstorm. Eric Zier threw the ball 897 times in the game, and it looked like he had completed a touchdown pass. But Florida, the touchdown was waved off. They said that Florida had called for a timeout, and they got it. Eric Zier's 54th pass or whatever it was fell incomplete, and Florida wins the game. But I'll always remember Danny Werfel was having trouble with the wet ball. He always did.
Right.
He always had trouble with the wet ball. And Coach Spurrier is losing his mind. "Danny, what are you doing?" I said, "Coach, the ball is wet." And he pointed at Eric Zier. He said, "It doesn't seem to be very much."
By the way, Eric Zier was one hell of a player. He was one hell of a quarterback.
He was. Great. Eric Zier is the color man for the Georgia Football Radio Network. Good guy in the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. A great guy.
You know, I was thinking about plays that sometimes, guys, it seems to me, plays in which an offense looks at the situation and you have to call it impossible, like that amazing, legendary throw to Lindsey Scott. But it's also dangerous, if you follow me. It's dangerous for a defense because on the one hand, you've got a defensive coordinator so tempted to play prevent, and that often prevents you from winning, or it's like we see in the NFL all the time. Jaden Daniels stuff, I'm sure you were ecstatic, goes back and hurls one down, buys time with his feet, hurls one downfield, and you've got roughly a 50-50 chance if the ball gets tipped up in the air. And so I'm not calling that big Georgia play luck. There was some thought and planning that went into it. But I would tell every defensive player and coach, don't start relaxing. Ask Auburn on 4th and 31, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. Don't start relaxing. Maybe quadruple your focus and attention to detail, because you don't want to get posterized being on the wrong end of an iconic play like those.
No question. And those things are going to happen in football. And that's what makes it such a great game.
Tony, I know you've got to get going. You've got a big day ahead of you, but I can't help but just think of so many great games and that voice of Larry Munson. Haynes drops back. Green's got him at the line. We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot. Broke their nose. Have they thought about naming the press box at Georgia after Larry Munson or Furman Bisher or you? Well, you'd have to. That's a writer, but what does Munson have anything named after him at Georgia? Or
Yes.
Lauren Smith, who is since 1972 part of the Georgia Football Network.
Georgia just completed a complete renovation of the press box with expansion and all of that. And the radio booth is named for Larry Munson.
Well, the press box could be for Claude Felton, who
Press
is on the
box is
Mount
for
Rushmore
Claude,
of
yeah.
SIDs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Larry, Tony, I know, again, thank you so much for sharing your week. Go have fun with your guys. And Ken's going to come on here. We're going to head out to Texas, but look forward to having you on for your next visit. Let people know, again, how they can follow you and keep up with all the great work, because you are like a great bottle of wine. You just keep getting better every year.
Well, we have a website with three of my old newspaper boys. We started a website about 5 years ago to have a place. It's TMG. It stands for the Media Guides. TMG College Sports. Just do a Google. That's the best way to get there. Do a show, as you know, Rob, with Doug Matthews every Saturday from 10 to about noon, where we break it down. 104.5 The Zone in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I've got some stops on the book tour coming up, doing a book signing in Athens with Lauren Smith on the day before the Georgia-Tennessee game in Athens. Lauren
November
and I talked
15th.
about that last night. Yep.
Yeah.
We will be there at All Creatures Big and Small or something like that. It's a bar. Okay. It's a bar. And so we will be there to sell books and sign books. We look forward to it.
Well, love it. What you have to say matters, man. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
All right, guys. Thanks.
You bet.
Hey, Ken, you with us?
Golly, I hope so.
Ooh, that's great. You sound great, man. Hey, Ken, I said earlier you were probably battling your microphone, but I wanted to get your take on this. I think ESPN Game Day is going to go to College Station, not the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa this November 30th.
Yeah, I was battling my microphone, and I must say thank you, Brenden. You gave me some great tips. It was 100% operator error on this end. So thank you for getting me through. But I did actually change locations. I'm now here in the in what we call the Hook'em Hut, which is our second building behind our house that has all of my UT and college football memorabilia in it. And I just want to show you that I do have the same SEC map that Rob has behind his back. That the lady in Mississippi was so kind to make for me to put it here in the Hook'em Hut. So I wanted to give her a shout out and let her know that it's on prime display right here.
And at Barnwood, Brenda in Batesville, Brenda Brewer, and I can get you in touch with her. She can make those maps. Kind of lean over, Ken. She carved that one she carved mine out of cypress, and she carved that one, looks like out of cypress as well. Just a beautiful creation. What a great Christmas gift or a birthday gift or just a gift to yourself, because you've been watching so much football. You deserve it, Doug. I think you would agree with that. I mean, we got to take care of ourselves.
Well, you know, we always have a, since we lived here in Dallas since 1985. And so we always have a big Texas OU Thursday night party at our house prior to the Saturday of the game. And so we have a bunch of people come over. We have just a really fun party. Throw almost as good a party as Frank Duffy, but I don't know if we can top New Orleans down there. But anyway, I'm not blowing smoke. People were asking me about this piece and where it came from and who made it, and they were just really impressed by it. So Barnwood Brenda, keep it up. Keep it up, girl. You're doing great.
Yeah.
But
let me do something. Let me do something real quick. I want to bring in, and then I want to get into what you're going to talk about, because I want to get into all these games, including that big one, SMU hosting Pitt. But I want to bring in Brad Bellamy, general manager of Landers Ford. localmemphis.com. A new sponsor here on the show, and we'll just keep you a few minutes, Brad. I know you are a busy man. You're the quarterback of the #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South. You can deliver anywhere. Again, let our listeners and viewers know how they can reach you and come out and get in a brand new vehicle.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, man. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
What another exciting college football weekend we got coming up. So, Rob, we're at Landers Ford in Collierville, Poplar and Houston Levy. Open 7 to 6 Monday through Saturday in service, and 8 to 7 Monday through Saturday in sales. Man, we got some great deals for the month of November. I want to lead with this, Rob, for your listeners, for your referrals. We're going to start Black Friday on November 1st. So anybody that you refer to us, an extra $500 off on any car deal.
There you go. I like it.
So it's for you and your listeners and your referrals. So they reach out to me, and we'll get them with the salesperson, get them taken care of, and take good care of them. Also, guys, just a reminder, we do offer pickup and delivery and mobile service. So instead of you having to come here to get maintenance done, we'll come to your house, we'll pick it up, and bring it back to you that same day, as long as it's some maintenance work. That's local to Memphis and Collierville and Germantown and Bartlett and Lakeland. Obviously not going to be able to do that to your listeners all the way down in Dallas or the Metroplex or Florida or wherever else you guys. We're not going to Guam today. But we got some great deals this month. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Edge is going away as a new vehicle with Ford. And so we got $10,000 off those to clear out the rest of the inventory we have on Edge. Great deals on Bronco, up to $6,000 off, guys. And then continue to have great deals on F-150 across the lineup, up to $12,000 off Expedition. So, guys, we're here to help. Local people, big game tonight, Collierville versus Houston, the Mayor's Cup in high school football. Landers' names on both those stadiums. So we have no dog in the fight, except we want a great game. So,
well, the Landers Bowl is what I'm calling it.
I love it.
I wish we'd have thought about the trophy before this year. It would have been great to have that already.
Hey, I got a question about if I'm sure you install accessories on these F-150 and other trucks. And Ken wants to know, can you install a big longhorn on the hood, the front of the hood of that car?
I'm pretty sure that Sam Pack's 5-star Ford in Dallas has a whole entire slew of
Hey, and I was about to say, we love F-150s here in Dallas. So, they're all over the place. Or as Rob likes to say, the Metroplex, which includes Dallas, Fort Worth, and about, 8 counties around us. So great dealership, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. I really like that mobile service too, because every time I've got a Jeep Wrangler, and by the way, I do have horns on the front of that Jeep Wrangler. And but boy, when I take it to get serviced, it is always such a pain. And so boy, that mobile service, what a great asset for your customers.
It is, Brad, because most people dread going to get their vehicle worked on because they've got to go and get someone to follow them and pick them up and coordinate all that stuff. That's unheard of. Let's talk real quick. I know you love to bet the games, and we won't keep you but a couple of more minutes. Give me your picks for the week. I love to do this because we like these wagers and all like that.
I mean, I don't know where you guys are at with talking through stuff. I'd love to talk to that with you guys this morning. As we recap last week, just a reminder for those that were with me, who picked A&M? Me and Brenden, right? That was it.
Yep.
I cautioned it. You and I though, unfortunately, Brad, got submarine. We had a torpedo slam in our Navy pick.
Dude, Navy killed me. And
man.
I think so. I feel you, brother. I feel you. I heard my name in there. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
I need a land war.
In a different league. It's fine.
A&M is for real. A&M is for real.
Just because you love a game doesn't mean you should put it in every single parlay that you do. We had a big problem last week, and Frank, we didn't know this going into the game, but Navy had not turned the ball over since week 2. Who knew that the ghost of Mother Teresa and the spirit of every Saints and 2 Popes were going to be there to help them fumble the ball 6 times in that game? You know how many players caused a fumble in that game? 0.
That's right. It was all self-imposed. Shot
How many dead
themselves in the
Popes?
foot.
6.
Yeah.
Dude, it was
a
ugly.
fun game.
I was with you.
But Vandy showed up. I want to thank you guys too. You convinced me that I was wrong about Oklahoma and Ole Miss, so I threw Ole Miss into a couple of games.
We're
Thank
just
you for
making
that.
you
That
money,
was a terrible
man.
decision.
That's what we do here at Sidelines. We just make you money. That's how we're
or make me lose it.
Next week.
Well, Brad, the Oklahoma, I just was like, you and I talked yesterday about the pride factor, guys. I mean, think about it, Doug. You're Oklahoma. You're going to play at Ole Miss for the first time. You're a 20-point dog, and Ole Miss has scored 23 points is the most they'd scored in any SEC game this year. I don't think that did not shock me. But Ole Miss, I got a tough one tomorrow at Arkansas, the 11 a.m. timeout game, Brad. We can chop that one up, but that's going to be another thriller.
Rob, y'all need to.
How many
go
points
ahead, Brad. I'm
did
sorry.
Put up at Arkansas?
How many points?
Tennessee.
Think Ole Miss will put up?
No, he said Tennessee or Arkansas.
Oh, Tennessee put up 14.
Yeah,
and they were down 3-0, took the lead 14-3, and then did nothing after that.
So you know what that means? Woo! Big suey.
Razorbacks.
Guys, I would direct y'all to. It's a pay site, so you might have to give it a free trial. But at the Athletic, Seth Emerson wrote a very wonky article on why the margin of victory is really down this year in the SEC. In other words, games are tighter. And one of the theories is Vanderbilt alone is not week after week losing by 40. But there are other factors, and Kirby talked about, we don't have the depth we used to. Our second and third teamers get picked off through the portal by teams that are trying to improve. And so I think that's got to be especially tough on the serious wagerer, because you start trying to play with point spreads when the margins are, 1 week. I just thought it was a lock that Ole Miss would cover that 20.5, and I missed it badly.
We weren't even close on that.
I think maybe you got to play fewer games and be right on the few that you do play, right?
Well, I was 0-6 going into the night game, so admitting there's a problem is the first step. And if I wouldn't have hit those last two games in my 2-game parlay on those last ones, dude, I'd be out here with a pencil cup out on the street. That was a brutal morning and brutal afternoon. Thank God for Miami that came in late. I needed every point. That was a 1-point squeaker in the Miami game. So
what you do like my Auburn friends do, Frank. Bet on Auburn's opponent, and if you lose, you're happy.
All right, Brad. Looking at this weekend's games, you got Florida, Georgia, Vandy at Auburn. Golly, Texas is off this weekend. South Carolina host Texas A&M. Who are you picking in that one?
Man, I got A&M. I don't think that they're going to lay a stinker after the game last week. South Carolina is hit or miss. They go into Oklahoma and they win. They barely get beat, but then they struggle at home last time against Ole Miss. I mean, that was the most points Ole Miss has been putting up in the SEC. So it might be close, but I got A&M winning that game. Good for South Carolina. They get the game at night, but that's my prediction in that one, is that A&M is going to come through and they're going to continue to roll all the way to College Station against UT to decide who goes to the SEC championship game.
All right, Brad, a couple of more before I let you go. Florida, Georgia. Florida, it's down to 14. Georgia minus 14. Who you picking in that one? Who you like?
Man, how many times has Georgia actually covered this year?
Amen.
So I still saw 14.5 this morning. If I got 14.5, I'm probably taking Florida. Florida's been playing well. Brendan's cringing at everybody saying Florida this weekend. I know. But I like underdogs this weekend. I like Florida. I like Vandy, especially now that the line's 7.5. I just don't see how Vandy doesn't go in there and at least keep it close. And half that team won there last year is New Mexico State. They just changed the front of the logo on on the shirt.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
I think
point.
I think late fourth quarter, Florida's going to have a chance to pull the shocking upset in that one. I really do.
Ooh.
I think Georgia will hang on, but this is a different Florida team the last couple of weeks.
If you can get that hook, take it. If you can get 14.5, I would take the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all
Brad,
the books right now are going favorable. And then, I mean, the other one that we hadn't talked about yet, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Man, the under over for Tennessee points is 30.5. They put up is 5. Kentucky's defense is still good unless there's injuries that I'm not aware of. But
yeah,
man, I like the under in that game. It's Kentucky and Tennessee's defense has been strong all year.
Yeah, these games every weekend, you've got like an all-you-can-eat buffet of picks. All right, give me last one. I'm gonna throw one outside the ballpark here for you because Ken's gonna cover it. Pitt at SMU. That was a big game. 42 years ago, it was almost for the national championship, but it's a big one. You got a pick in that one?
Do you got any insight into the injury with Eli? And he got hurt at the end of the game last week. Any insight as to where we're sitting? Are we in the same Missouri boat where we got the quarterback for a quarter, the game stays close, and then it's a blowout? Or do you think he's playing the whole game?
Eli will start. That's the word I got yesterday. And Jennings, the quarterback for SMU, also got very banged up last week, but he's going to come out and start. So it's going to be a very, very fascinating game. But yeah, Eli's gonna start, and I'm sure he'll play until he drops.
Well, SMU's been living for this moment since the death penalty. They're at home. Give me SMU.
All right.
And Rob, before Brad leaves, since we're prognosticating, I want to lay a prognostication out to him and see what he thinks. I think Stoops has had enough at Kentucky because there's such a psycho team, and I think Cignetti comes across the state line and will be coaching the Kentucky Wildcats.
Hey,
Brad. All right, Brad.
I don't know if he wants that job. Do you want that job?
Real quick before we go out of SEC, since Frank and I talked about it last week. Get back with Navy. They're going against Rice. I don't understand why the spread's so low. It's way too low. Go with Navy. Double down with Army. Army first half spread. Guys, 13.5 against Air Force. They might weigh it down a little bit in the fourth quarter. But man, Air Force is terrible. Navy killed them.
I agree. I've been on Army all year, but I'm telling you what, my battle's going to be on land, not on sea. Those damn 6 turnovers got me gun shy, man.
Oh, get back on the train, baby. It's gonna roll.
Hey, Duff. Is there a game in Death Valley in a week? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, there is. There's one coming up, and it's gonna be loser leaves town because there ain't no tomorrows for the loser of that one.
That is true. Hey, Brad, Joe Sixpack out here wants to, there he is, roll tide for you. Brad, Joe Sixpack out there wants to get him a car, truck, or SUV. Give you a call. Give him your number and the website, and we'll let you get back to work. You are at the #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South, and you sponsor, guys. Y'all will not – you talk about people that invest in the community, a great corporate partner. You can't get better than Landers Ford. We are so proud to be associated with y'all. Thank you for being a sponsor.
Man, love being with you guys. Love talking football. Love talking cars, and love the success we're all going to have this weekend. So,
hey, after 2 and 6, I don't want the cheese. I just want out the track.
Hey,
Frank's phone didn't work Saturday night.
Bet an F-150 on SMU.
Hey,
there you go. There you go.
My wife wears a shirt that says Sunday is coming, especially on Sundays when we go to church sometimes. Guys, that's the beauty about college football is we always got Sunday to come, right?
That's right.
What is it sometimes shit?
And Sunday still counts. So.
Hey, Brad, before you go, I do have a question about the F-150 because I gotten into a debate the other day with somebody about it because, a lot of hurricanes around here in Florida. I'm a big F-150. I have always been a Ford guy. I'm driving a Chevy right now, just to let you know. But I heard that I've heard and I've seen the F-150 can power a house in a storm.
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
true?
So, guys,
Wow.
47 years. You know what 47 years is? That's the number of years in a row that F Series has been the best-selling truck in America. 47 years. It'll be 48 here in a couple of months. One of the things is the inventions, the ingenuity. So some of you guys know I spent 18 years on the corporate side with Ford. We worked with the dealers in Southern Louisiana. After they had a big hurricane season 3 years ago, we decided everybody needed to get loaded up with the Pro Power onboard F-150. What that means is out of the back of your truck, you can power your house. You can plug things in.
That's impressive.
You can get up to 7,000 kilowatts, guys. So
so cool.
I've
seen it, and I've seen it hooked up. It is unbelievable.
That can be a lifesaver.
My buddies in the Cajun Navy could use that.
But yeah, so we had every dealer set up, and guys, one of the cool things that Ford dealers will do is when they have to rally around the troops and work together, and when there's tragedy in different areas of the country, they come together and they help support each other. And it's been a beautiful thing to see. I've gotten to experience it personally. We had some major flooding in Waverly a few years ago in Tennessee, and man, the dealers got together, went out there, helped, took waters, and helped with debris cleanup and everything else. And you mentioned the Jeep. Have you driven a Bronco yet?
Oh,
no, I have not. I envy them when they go by, but I bet. So tell me about it.
It's time to switch. Your back will thank you.
Yeah.
But what's the signature
We'll talk.
one? There's a new one out I see now that's different. It looks different. What's the newer? I don't know. It looks beefier. It's got the bigger tires and all that. Is that just
you got the Sasquatch package that's on several different versions of the Bronco. So you can get that on some of the lower trims all the way up to the highest trims. And I mean, Broncos start in the 40s, and guys, they go all the way up to the 100. So so many options, so many accessories, and so much. In the words of Tim the Toolman Taylor,
they really are. Brad, I got to ride Michael Jordan's Sasquatch package last weekend. That Bronco, brand new, he bought from you. Awesome vehicle. Thank you so much. And guys, call out there, ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager, LandersFordMemphis.com.
And you got any of those Broncos got a defects or something you get rid of, you just send it down to us.
Take care of it. Let me know.
We're here for you.
All right.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad. I'm telling you what,
you're
guys,
a good dude.
Hopefully Doug can come back.
He's fun.
The Gremlins got Doug, but
chairman of the board, dude. He's got to go run the entire world. He doesn't have time to sit here.
Right.
Frank Sinatra's cousin. Hey, guys, we covered a lot of games with Brad just now, and I want to get your take. Ken, Texas, OU, A&M, we're all over the SEC today. Anything breaking out there on the Western Front?
Yeah, there are a couple things. First of all, this is the first time. In fact, this on my notes that I take every week when I'm researching what I'm going to talk about. This is the first time I've heard anybody bring out Brent Venables' buyout.
Whoa!
And, yeah.
Whoa!
So it's $44.8 million, if anybody's counting. 44.8.
That's all?
That's a Jimbo bargain.
Hey,
and so, but here's the thing. I went over their schedule. Okay, right now they're sitting at 4-2. They play Maine this weekend at home. Okay, so they're going to win that game. That gets them to 5. But their next 3 games are Missouri and LSU on the road and Alabama at home. Guys, there's a chance that Oklahoma does not make a bowl this year.
I agree.
Well, they're playing Maine tomorrow.
Yeah.
Remember the Maine. Remember that battle cry?
Of course.
They better not lose this one.
But I'm telling you, that whole debacle with Hawkins and Jackson Arnold at quarterback really, really set them back. You had Nick Saban yesterday saying that they were not ready to come to the SEC.
Yeah.
And but it blew my mind. I was just, again, always checking the headlines to see what's out there that I need to go look at. and there was Venables buyouts. So I really don't think that he gets canned after this year. I think he cans everybody else on both sides of the ball. Of course, he's already gotten rid of Seth Luttrell, that offensive coordinator. But if he doesn't produce next year, I think he will be on a very, very hot seat. Then on the Arkansas, I can't even talk this morning now that I finally got a microphone. The A&M game, and I agree what you said about. I think game day is going to be there.
No doubt.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't be if things go the rest of the way they should. So I'm looking here at the Aggie schedule. Okay, they got South Carolina this weekend, then New Mexico State at home, Auburn, and then Texas on the 30th, on November the 30th. What am I trying to say? Yeah, November the 30th. So, I think that game is going to be for all the marbles. What an amazing amazing way to start out or restart a 118-year rivalry.
Yep.
I think that's going to be amazing.
Isn't this interesting? I don't mean to interrupt you, Ken and Frank, but I think this.
No, please do.
I think this is an interesting storyline. We bitch about how the future is kind of taking over and how the past is sort of the recent past is sort of dying out. But if we really dig, come with me on a trip, boys. Come on, come down. Let's go way back. Okay, let's go back to the days, and Rob's back. I'm going to bring him back in. Sorry, Rob. When the days in Army and Navy and these schools were top dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, the filter is you as coach, Florida, right? Let's just say Billy Napier, whatever. You're modifying your coaching techniques, right, to keep up with said new athlete mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But you don't have to do that if you're at Army, Navy, and anywhere else. You don't have to play that game. You have a distinct advantage as a coach in that particular situation because you can lean a little harder because they can transfer portal, but it ain't so easy to transfer portal out of Air Force and everywhere.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of.
No.
Yeah.
I was
You
thinking
wind
about
up in Leavenworth, Kansas, if you do that.
So I'm asking. This is a question to my astute colleagues here. Do we see the all these, not all these, but these Army, Navy schools, things that of this nature, armed forces programs and schools becoming and rising back up to the top, as it was back in the day in the early 1920s and 30s when early
In the 50s was the last time.
last one was
academies.
like 1954.
Yeah, when they were both ranked in the same season when Eisenhower was president. Brenden.
That's right.
Well, you had some.
They were building that.
Maybe in the 60s with Starbuck a little bit.
Yeah. But what do you guys think about that? And let's go around because Frank, I'll start with you. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think it's an anomaly. I don't think this is going to be. I think this is more the exception than the rule. You just have the elite athletes are always going to be at these other schools that they're wanting to play on Sunday. These kids at the academies, they're going to be shooting real bullets on Sundays, not NFL bullets. I think you just had a really good run at Army recently. I think Navy is they've always had a competitive program. I think because of the fact that they run these, kind of off-brand offenses, it always does give other teams a little bit of a trouble. I just don't foresee this being a byproduct of the new NIL and new transfer portal thing. I think the kids that are going to go to the academies are your one-offs. It just so happens that they're playing good football this year. I don't foresee this being a undefeated trend or a one-loss trend going forward.
Ken?
Well, I think that, here's the main reason you go to the academy is because you want to be an officer in our great armed services.
Right.
You have to be recommended by, the senator from your state. It's a big deal. I've known several kids that are of our friends that have
Yeah.
gone that route, and it's a difficult. It's not exactly an easy place to get into, and so
Neither
they're
is
going there,
Vandy.
huh?
Neither is Vanderbilt.
Yeah, but you don't need a senator's letter to get in either.
That's true.
So
Sometimes you do. If you're in state, probably.
but anyway, they're going there. They're going there for academics and to fight wars. That's what they're going there for. I will say that I think better athletes are applying to go to those to Army, Navy, especially, and that translates into better football teams. So I mean, I agree with Frank that they're kind of one off, but you've got some pretty darn good kids in there that could play for other programs very easily. But they're there for the vast majority are there to get their education and to go out and be officers in this great armed services.
There's still 1%ers. It's just a different category.
Rob, what do you think, Rob?
I think Frank's right. I think Ken is right. I do think, though, you saw last weekend when Navy stepped out of their peer group and played Notre Dame, it was not a pretty sight.
Right.
It's just withstanding week in and week out. Bobby Bowden famously said, if discipline were everything in college football, by God, why don't we have Army and Navy playing for the dadgum national championship every year? And that's just what it is. But we all know people from the service academies like Dave Tompkins, and Dave will be back on with us Monday. They're the best of the best. Some of these guys are phenomenal athletes who put country first. Yeah. And they do that. And I'm not saying anything about guys that go to a non-service academy, but I've got my friend Tim Horton, who's the running backs coach at Air Force Academy. He doesn't have problems with guys showing up 15, 30 minutes late for a meeting.
Yeah.
If you're late consistently, you have a half-ass attitude.
Well, you'll
have a half-ass life. That's just the way it is.
Well, if you're late, if you're a cadet and you're late, you got a bigger problem.
Oh, you've got major problems.
Yeah, and it's football coaches.
Yeah. Whether you're at West Point, Air Force, Navy, Citadel, VMI, you better be on time. Be early.
I grew up next to Air Force in Colorado, right down the road.
I mean, weren't you?
Well, no, 45 minutes away. But I grew up. You cut your teeth in TV. At these back west, Mountain West. So or even Fox Sports South, I think it was.
Yeah,
that's name. But I worked for these regional broadcasts, so I covered these Air Force game, Air Force boxing, Air Force everything. Yeah. I mean, it's a different. I mean, no question, it's a different level. But we're gonna see this. I was leading you all like Columbo down my path here.
Put those glasses back on, Brenden.
You know what, Rob? I will.
I love Columbo.
Glasses on, Rob.
Put the cowboy hat. Where's the cowboy hat?
It's not a cowboy hat day. I can't put on cowboy hat during Georgia week. Shut up. Go back and eat your Tex-Mex. Go back. Go Gators.
Just one more question, sir. Just one more question. Another thing, sir.
I'm leading you down the path. Don't you just feel like we're just sort of like this parody from the transfer portal and all this other kind of stuff? We're seeing this thin out. The herd is thinning at these major programs, right? We don't see 3, 4, 5 stacks on Georgia, and we're seeing this play out amongst the SEC. So as they get more, kids that are going to be better players, I don't know. I think that it plays out because we talk about having the edge in a game of inches. We can say millimeters now, but like everything's going to matter. Like that's going to matter if I can do that, if I have that ability. And I just feel like if I can lean on that kid a little bit more, if I can, because we know what's going to happen. We see what happens when the discipline is gone, right? We all know that the team falls apart. You have to have discipline in football to win. You have to control your team like that. That's why the coach matters. And that's why I think maybe that's the difference. You're getting a different kind. And I think that's why we're seeing the smart kids kicking everyone's ass now, because they got a little more leverage because they're going to smart at Vandy. I call them the smart kids. Yeah. Because I think that strategy and being smarter is going to matter. AI technology is going to matter. that's where we're headed with our beloved game. And I just wonder if the armed forces are going to be a part of that in the future.
Well, guys, what he's saying, when you go around the country, and Ken, you do it so much as the Football Writers Association of America writer, football matters. I mean, golly, Brenden, I'm sure you've been to University of Wyoming. They have this high altitude.
I have been to the University of Wyoming. It's like 7,300 I did the longest football game in the history of time at the University of Wyoming years ago with 11 rain delays.
Oh my God!
4:30 in the morning. The game.
Oh,
well, let me ask you this, Brenden. I got to ask you this: the altitude out there. I've been to Mexico City and went up to Popocatépetl and Ixtlahuatl, these volcanoes that were 17,000 plus. I mean, you get out of the car and you're like, oh, the worst hangover times 10. It's the altitude.
I don't drink.
But prune juice. But anyway, when you go out there in that altitude, it's a big deal. Ken, when you cover those games, you think about the press box at Neyland Stadium's way high. How about the press box at the University of Wyoming? I think what Brenden said is the fact the 2s and 3s, we say it every day on this show. I'm not trying to be redundant, but it's got to be said. Frank, those 2s and 3s that used to stick around, not all of them are leaving, but enough of them are. You better know where they are, or you're going to be lining up going, oh, I remember you. You signed with Georgia. You were a 4-star. Now you're at Liberty.
This distillation started way back during the Bear Bryant days when they had to go away from the 125 scholarships down to the 100 to the 85 to down. This has been going on since 1980, guys. This distillation of the number of guys that you can stockpile into your program. This has just been naturally happening. It's just, I mean, you're going to see it more and more because with NIL and with the transfer portal, it's so much easier for that second string player to go to another team in the same conference.
Oh my gosh!
And look,
it's like a movie. It's just like a script in my head. It's like this is going to play out like a mafia is going to get together and they're going to go to like University of the Sisters of the Blind and Poor, and they're going to dump a bunch of cash in there and they're going to make this powerhouse team is going to walk out. We're setting up for this entire scenario to go down.
Yeah, and here's the crazy part. They're already starting to come back. You're starting to see people leave from a program, transfer, see that the grass is not greener on the other side, and come back. We've already had probably a half dozen of those. That's going to happen as well. So I think Jackie Sherrill is right. You're going to have some sort of a monetary cap on this. Yeah. Or you're going to have the haves and the have-nots get further and further and further apart, and all that does is that ruins the competition of the game.
Yeah. Hey Frank, I got one for you because I would like to talk about Jackie Sherrill and Pitt for a minute, but I got one for you. A great line I learned a long time ago is that not only is the grass not greener on the other side, sometimes there's no grass.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hey, look, absolutely.
It's still got to be cut. And I recommend a John Deere zero turn if you can.
That's like, hey, man, we're going to do that.
Sponsorship.
Bada bing, bada bing.
Hey, I'll tell you, you know what Brenden brings to this show is so cool from the TV part, because he's traveled around and he's done these games. But I think what we're seeing,
he brings those baby blue eyes that gets our woman demographic from 35 to like 55.
So many.
There you go.
Hey, to all the girls watching this show, you know who you are.
Who loves you, baby? Hey, Ken,
you know what I mean, honey?
Ken,
shooting the guns, baby.
We know what his motivation is.
Hey, divorce, 50 with a 12-year-old doing podcasts, baby. I'm sexy. Come on, you want it?
Hey,
6'6", over 6. Wait, never mind.
6'4", 183 pounds of muscle. Hey, Ken, Jackie Sherrill was 50-9 as the coach at Pitt. When he spoke, and he'll be back on again with us.
Pitt was fantastic.
They were unreal. He'll be back on with us next Friday at 8. We're going to do a technical. We're going to start doing for this whole panel here, Brenden, tech run-throughs before, because there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's the genius of Brenden. But
because
I was about that.
I was so disappointed that I didn't get a chance
You
to
didn't-
visit
he
with
didn't-
Coach
he-
Sherrill.
he wasn't on. So
Yeah,
you
he had
didn't ask
bad.
him.
Yeah,
Oh,
but he
then I
had
guess
bad
I
Get
wasn't.
sound.
back.
I'm not
He'll be on next
disappointed.
Friday.
No.
Yeah.
But
You're not the
Okay.
only one.
Well,
You're not the
great.
only
I would
bad
like to be
student.
on with him because I interviewed him
That's
multiple
fine.
times
Listen,
back in the day when he was at A&M.
Okay.
And I have seen him since. He's very active here in
Yeah.
Texas.
Yes.
And he is the nicest guy.
Oh,
And
God.
he will do pictures, which I think is great. He will do pictures with people where he's doing the gig 'em and other people are doing the hook 'em.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, he's a great guy. But listen, here's what I wanted to talk about with the Pitt game and SMU game, because now we're running out of time. I am so excited about going to that game tomorrow because literally, it's about a mile and a half east of where I'm standing right now. So I mean, I could walk there if I had to, but I'm not. But okay, you've got 7-0 Pitt versus 7-1 SMU.
Yeah.
Okay. It is the biggest game at Gerald Ford Stadium since the death penalty.
Yeah. No doubt.
And I
100%.
wanted to say that I actually covered the death penalty in 1985. They held the hearing in Boston. Okay. So they moved. So for some reason, the NCAA, they're having all this stuff is going on here, basically in Dallas and the environs, the Metroplex, but they had the hearing up in Boston. So we all trekked up to Boston. I was working for the CBS station here in Dallas. But before I left, and this will really bring back some nostalgia for you guys. I went down to Austin and did a pre-taped interview with Coach Darrell K. Royal at Willie Nelson's Pedernales Country Club. Okay, the one the IRS took away from him eventually.
Among other things.
But I interviewed Coach Royal about the whole situation. So when the death penalty went down up in Boston, I had that tape. And so either way it went, whether if SMU got the death penalty or if they didn't get the death penalty, I had an answer from Coach Royal, who still at that point in 1985, even though he would, retired in 76, he was like Bear Bryant. He was still considered, a real thought subject matter expert here on college football. So it's really brought back a lot of memories for me. But here, let's go back to Coach Sherrill. If Pitt would win this game tomorrow, and I hope for Brad's sake that SMU does win. If Pitt would win tomorrow, they would go to 8-0. The last time that Pitt was 8-0 was in 1981 when their quarterback was Dan Marino.
Right.
Yep.
Their coach was Jackie Sherrill.
Correct.
And they went down to play in the Sugar Bowl.
Georgia.
I went to that Sugar Bowl.
Yep, me
Yep.
too. I was there. I remember it well.
See,
That's
we
how
could have
good that team was.
We could have run into each other.
That's how good that team was.
I know. So I am just when I like to tune into the show earlier before I come on, just so I can kind of hear what y'all were talking about. And I've been so excited about this Pitt SMU game, and I think that Dallas is very excited about the game too.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's only going to be on the SEC network. No offense to the SEC network, but it seems like
Pitt SMU's on the ACC network. You mean?
Yes.
Yeah, you said
Yes,
SEC.
that's what I meant. I'm sorry. No, it's on the ACC
They don't have
network.
that much money yet.
Yeah.
And by the way, good comedy and good storytelling all come in a circle. We were just talking to Tony Barnhart about the Junkyard Dogs of 1976 who played Pitt in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Again, Tony Dorsett and that great Junkyard Dog defense.
Mhm.
Everything comes full circle on this show. That's the beauty of this show. We go
genius.
around. It's incredible.
ADD sports, baby, but we bring it home.
I love it. And by the way, I want to speak to SMU because I saw this coming with SMU when they went in and beat a damn good Tulane team in New Orleans at Ullman last year. They were 11-1, and they went in and beat Tulane, which was also 11-1 at the time, and won the AAC. This is going to be a great football game tomorrow. Do not be shocked if SMU beats them at home. Do not be shocked.
Guys, we got to wrap up. we got to wrap the show up.
Florida. I'm going to Florida, Georgia, so I'll be there. Yeah,
you're going to the cocktail party? Awesome.
Yeah, a little party.
Look, there's so damn many good games. I know we went long. Guys, there's so much to talk about and so much to cover. And
shoot video. I was going to tell you guys, shoot video wherever you go. Just like just some regular sideways. Make it landscape. Just shoot some videos, and when you're done, you can email me, and then next time we talk, we can go through your stuff.
I'm going to send both of y'all
interviews,
the email address for Brenden. Send it to him, and we can upload it during the show. We'll start, and we can even get our viewers, if they're at a game, and he wants to send us a little clip, because if you look at the news now, most of the stuff is coming from viewers on their pixelated cameras and whatnots and such. So anyway, guys, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, great job. Frank Duffy, as always, Mr. LSU Tiger. Doug Dean down in Birmingham. God love him. He had the tap out at the top of the hour at 9. Brad Bellamy from Landers 4. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football. Coach Jackie Sherrill, texting him right now. He'll be on with us next Friday at 8. We're going to get deep into this discussion, and so we'll do it again next Friday. Executive producer Brenden Martin extraordinaire. We're going to get this thing right, folks.
Go, you, Jordan.
Go team. God bless America.
I hate the Bulldogs.
Folks. We'll see you Monday. Have an awesome weekend. We are the blessed of us to have all you watching. Thank you.
Blessed of us above all of you.
Blessed to be blessed.
ADD. See you Monday.
Vote Trump. Vote Trump.
Thank y'all. A great show. I love it. All right, Brenden.
Hold on there, brother. I got to get everyone.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.